Hey English 112, Miss Brewer here for your week 2 lecture video. So I'm going to give you guys a second to just open up, make sure that you have Moodle opened up and you can go through everything with me as I talk through your assignments this week and what you're going to be doing. You don't obviously need to watch me talk, so feel free to just have me in the background and have Moodle up and be going through everything. So I'm in week 2, and you will see that the first thing listed is your week 2 poetry assignment. Hold off on that for a second, and let's get into your discussion first. So this week, you're going to participate in a discussion forum. The discussion forum is on last week's poems, so you should have already read all of them. So what you're going to do for this discussion forum is you're going to select one poem from week 1's poetry. So that means you're going to select one poem from either Emily Dickinson, Langston Hughes, County Cullen, Greenleaf Whittier, or is that it? That might be it. Yeah, that group of poems. So of those 5 poems, I want you to select one. It can be one of the 2 that you talked about in your journal last week, because you're going to go into it a lot deeper this week. So the first thing you want to do this week is you want to go ahead and work on your initial discussion board post. And there is the very first thing you'll see after our agenda, or after our poetry assignment, is poetry discussion responses, which is a page. I'm going to click open that. I want you to use these responses to draft, these response questions to draft a 300 to 500 word initial response to the poem that you've chosen. So if I chose County Cullen's Tableau, then in the discussion forum, I'll entitle it, Tableau. And then what I will do is I will create a discussion forum post that I can use these questions to guide what I'm going to say about this poem. What I don't want you to do is just write the questions and an answer to them. I want you to create a 2 or 3 paragraph, 300 to 500 word response to the poem. These questions will guide that response. So you start out just kind of with the basics and your gut reaction. If you had a reaction to the title, what was it? Did the title of the poem match your expectations? If it, did you notice anything interesting about structure and form? If you don't notice anything interesting about structure and form, you don't have to say, I didn't notice anything, okay? Just say if you did, okay? And then your gut reaction. So remember, when we read poetry, we want to read one time all the way through, and then just respond to it. So how did the poem make you feel when you first read it? Did anything surprise you? Then start getting into those literary elements. What was the mood of the piece, the tone of the author? If there were characters, what were they who were the characters, or what was the character? And how do they seem to feel? Then I really want you to make some connections. So if you can't think of another piece of literature, that's fine. But something in pop culture, a TV show, a song, a movie, something to that effect, something that's happening today, make some connections, personal connections, anything about that you can connect, and you should be able to make some connections about these poems. And then the most important part of your initial statement is going to be your theme statement. So everybody is required to answer these questions. What is the poem saying about the world? What does it say about being a human? Or what is it saying about society? And then I want you to write a theme statement. And I have a little mini lesson on theme that we're about to go through that'll help you to do that. So that is a requirement for your initial discussion board post. My suggestion, get that out of the way first, because you've already read those poems. So going back into week 2, I'm going to open up the PowerPoint that's mini lesson theme, and we're going to go ahead and just talk through it. So please open it up as well. Okay, I'm working with 2 screens here. Okay, so we know some basic literary elements, right? We know that there's characterization, there's setting, plot, conflict. Characters, if we think about, and you've learned this since you were in 2nd grade, who, what, when, where, why, right? The who, what, when, where, why of the poem. So the characters are the who, the setting is the where, the plot is the how, the conflict is the what, and the theme is the why. Why did the author write what they wrote? okay? What is the author trying to say about the world, about society? So a theme is what the author is trying to say. It's a central message, a central idea. It is expressed in a statement. Theme is never one word, okay? A theme topic could be one word, but a theme statement is what the author is saying about that one word. So the theme of your poem won't be love. It would be what the author is saying about love in this society, okay? So it's really important that you remember that it's a theme statement. It's not just going to be one word. Commentary, human beings, life, society as a whole, okay? Some aspect of society, technology, or, criminal justice, or whatever. So what is a theme? These are the things that it is. It's a message or an idea. It's stated in a sentence. The author is the one that's making the statement with their writing. So it's what the author is saying. About the poem itself can't make a theme. It's a poem. It's the author that does the work. And you can find the theme in everything. So if you read a book, you're going to find a theme, and sometimes there's more than one theme when you're reading a book, but you're going to find it present in the characters, in the plot, in the setting, everywhere, okay? You can argue a theme, so you can, there might be more than one, but it's arguable, okay? You find examples from the text to back up why you think the author is saying what they're saying. It is never directly stated, all right? So what a theme is not. It's not a moral. It's not a lesson. We shouldn't have a you statement. You don't want anything cliche, right? It's never one word. And it's never really a summary. It's a direct statement of what the author is saying about something with that piece of writing. So we have some examples of theme, right? So Emily Dickinson's poem talks about, death. The theme would not be death, right? The theme would be something, what is she saying about death, right? What is she saying about what happens when we die? Or what is she saying about markers that we have in life that we don't have in death? Okay, that's kind of what we're looking at. Theme topics can be one word. Again, you want to look at the theme topic and then say, okay, what is the author saying about this one word? And that's your theme statement. And I just give you some examples of theme topics. So how do you figure out a theme? Okay, the first thing you look at is what is the author talking about? What is the subject, right? And then look at what the author is actually saying about those things and write it into a theme statement. So the example that I give is for a novel. And again, novels and poems might even have more poems. Most of the poems we read, you could apply more than one theme. But definitely in novels, there's more than one theme. So your theme statement should say should be formatted similarly to this example. So it would be a poem. It would be, in this poem, and then the title of the poem, properly punctuated, which is in quotation marks. Angie Thomas illustrates her belief that using your voice is the best way to address social injustice. And I would even tweak that some and take out the your and just say that using one's voice, or, teenagers using their voice, or something like that. So what I want you guys to do when you write your theme statements is I do want you to indicate the title of the piece, the author, and what they're saying. So if you're still having trouble, look at the symbolism in the poem, or look at repeated lines, okay? That'll help you kind of indicate what they might be talking about. Anything that stands out, look at form, look at structure, and kind of think about what that author is saying about the world. And then you just have some more examples here at the end of the PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm going back into week 2. So your week 2 poetry assignment, again, my suggestion to you, complete your initial discussion board response first. That is due by Thursday. Then you can read this week's poems, okay? So this week's poems are a little bit more modern. Some are a little angry. Prepare yourself for more forceful poetry. And I will give a kind of just a caveat or a trigger warning. So Poem About My Rights does talk about sexual violence. So if that's a trigger for you, I would just skip that poem, and you have my permission to do so if it's going to trigger you in any way. Because you don't have to necessarily write about it, but I do want you guys to read them all and be able to engage in them all. So we'll read your week 2 poetry, and you will have already hopefully made your initial response. Your initial response to the discussion forum for week 1 is due Thursday. Your 2 responses to peers are due on Sunday. I'm going to talk about the discussion forum grading really quickly again. Just make sure that you're, first of all, meeting the word count minimums at minimum. Okay, so initial 300 to 500 words. Your responses to your peers should be a minimum of 150 words. It's really imperative that even in your response, you are referring back to the poetry. And I'm just going to remind everyone that it's really important that when you write a response, that you are furthering the conversation, giving additional examples from the text, giving additional examples from real life, not just agreeing with what the person said. You can challenge what they said respectfully, but make sure that you're promoting this conversation to go further. And you're definitely encouraged to engage with one another. So if I post an initial response and somebody replies and then I reply back to them, that's where learning happens. So when you get your discussion forum, make sure that you are meeting the minimums. Go back and look at how I'm grading your discussions, because it's really important that you have a substantial conversation there. For Journal 3, you're going to be responding to this week's poems. So I want you to choose 2 poems and write 200 to 300 words about the poems, answering those 4 questions, all right, for 2 poems from this week for Journal 3. Again, the articles are here for you if you want to, if you know you really loved Maya Angelou and you know you're probably going to want to write about her, go ahead and read that article. Go ahead and read both articles, all right? It's going to give you a deeper understanding of the poetry, and it's going to help to prepare you for your literary analysis paper where you will have to use articles. Okay, and finally, you guys have a week 2 attendance assignment. So for the week 2 attendance assignment, what I want you guys to do is go back to the syllabus, and in your own words, I want you to just summarize what my late policy is for work. So for late work, what is the policy in this class? Just summarize that for the week 2 attendance assignment. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email. You can call me, we can meet virtually. I'm happy to discuss any questions you guys have that come up this week. I hope you guys enjoy the poetry this week. It's definitely more modern and speaks to things that we deal with on a daily basis. And if you guys, again, need anything, reach out. I'll check in with you guys next week.